In a recent statement, J. Annette Dentist, first counselor in the LDS Church's General Relief Society presidency, stirred controversy by declaring, quote, "There is no other religious organization in the world that I know of that has so broadly given power and authority to women," unquote. This assertion has sparked a wave of criticism and dissent among both women and men within the church. Thousands of comments flooded in, expressing disagreement with Dennis's claim. Many pointed out the stark reality that LDS women often hold little influence over church policies and directions, only being allowed to lead under men. The backlash has persisted for over 2 weeks, drawing attention from major news agencies worldwide. One can go back to early leaders to get a sense of the church often disregarding women. Brigham Young, for instance, once said, "Women have no right to meddle in the affairs of the kingdom of God. Outside the pale of this, they have a right to meddle because many of them are more sagacious and shrewd and more competent than men to attend to things of financial affairs. They never can hold the keys of the priesthood apart from their husbands." When I want sisters or the wives of the members of the church to get up Relief Society, I will summon them to my aid. But until that time, let them stay at home. And if you see females huddling together, veto the concern. For decades, women within the LDS Church have been advocating for changes to improve the conditions for female members. While some may argue that women are content with the current structure, it's essential to recognize that equality cannot be determined solely by individual satisfaction. Notably, former LDS prophet Gordon B. Hinckley in 1998 stated, when asked if women would ever hold the priesthood, he answered, quote, "Well, they don't hold the priesthood at the present time. It would take another revelation to bring that about. I don't anticipate it. The women of the church are not complaining about it. They have their own organization, a very strong organization, 4 million plus members. I don't know of another women's organization in the world which does so much for women as does that, as this church has. They're happy. They sit on boards and governance in the church. I don't hear any complaints about it." Unquote. On a separate occasion, when asked, "Is it true that the women cannot hold the priesthood?" he stated, quote, "Yes, but there's no agitation for that. We don't find it. Our women are happy. They're satisfied. These bright, able, wonderful women who administer their own organization are very happy. Ask them. Ask my wife." Unquote. Well, Gordon, they are agitating and complaining. And as time goes on and the world becomes more inclusive and valuing equality of humans rather than dividing along gender lines or skin color or sexual orientation, and in a world where their voice is being heard outside church channels, at large, women and others are going to voice their criticisms of a faith that is slow to come around, in spite of being led by so called prophets, seers, and revelators. The church will have to decide who it alienates and who it caters to. The Salt Lake Tribune recently asked women inside the LDS Church what changes they specifically wanted to see. Responses included calls for greater female speaker representation at General Conference, allowing young women to pass the sacrament, inclusion of women in all levels of Sunday school leadership, and empowering the Relief Society to resume its former autonomy. Additionally, there were demands for women to participate in the selection process for new stake presidents, permission for women to make callings without male approval, and the reinstatement of female blessings. Suggestions extended to having female leaders seated on the stand during sacrament meetings and calling women to serve as ward clerks. The overall sentiment was a plea for the church to recognize and address the systemic inequalities that persist within its structure. As the LDS Church grapples with mounting pressure for reform, the question of female authority and empowerment remains at the forefront of discussion. Calls for changes are growing louder, and with many members advocating for a more inclusive and equitable approach that reflects the values of equality and respect within the church's teachings. In the end, if you want to claim that women have more power and authority than the women of any other faith, you will need to be able to describe specifically the things they can do that the women of other faiths cannot. And as to yet, the LDS Church seems unable to do that. And until then, it is just giving lip service as a way to sound feminist while being anything but.